the first videos, he's like, they say the camera adds 10 pounds. He goes, how many cameras did they have on you?
Hey, guys. Got 11 people in here so far.
Cool. Hey, everybody.
I'll say hi to everybody right now. At least those that have commented. We got Don and Wendy English, Mark Neese, John Trudell, Mopar Man 1978, PTSHYU2. Boy, that's a cryptic name. I'll take it. Todd McCarter, Danny Boyd, Bruce from Alberta, Canada.
Hey, Bruce.
And Duddy's Adventures. Duddy's got a neat channel. He does a lot of off-road stuff. And Jason Fitch, Lunar Outlaw Garage. Howdy, Brian. So we got a great crew here watching. Anyway, generally, I'll let them, comment. We try to catch their questions as we can. But until we do that, I get to ask questions myself in between theirs.
Sure.
So I was just telling Jim that I've talked to commenters, of course. I was telling him I enjoy that we have so much diversity in this YouTube automotive community. And I love doing stuff with Tony. And Bennett is like a different branch. We all love cars, but we do different stuff. And, I have Paul Shields from Frank Hawley's drag racing school on once. And that's a whole different branch, too. It's racing, but it's a whole different kind. It's all about licensure and stuff. And, it's just a lot of fun. Got a lot of different kinds of personalities. So you guys got Jim Bennett cornered for a little while. What do you want to ask him? I got some stuff that I want and show off on here too. Be a little exclusive for whoever's in here.
We can do that.
You got something to show off.
I do. Well, Bennett has seen it.
Hey, Mopar Man.
Yeah, they're getting geared up. John, Lunar, William Sanders, whose sandwich thumbnail I've never completely figured out. Ramberto.
I haven't had dinner, so that sandwich looks pretty good.
All I need to hear. Man, that guy got a connection.
I have the remains of a bowl of rice. I like my rice. Wild Rose Garage, how's it going? Dan says 3 hours racing, restoring, and repairing. So that's a good place to jump off right there. What's so when you started doing the hot rod garage, what is your favorite angle of all the things you get involved in? Because you got to fix stuff, you got to make stuff run, make it fast. But what's your favorite facet of what you do there?
I just taking something that other people pass by and look at it and go, that's just horrible, and we fix it and make it nice. That's always been my thing. I've been doing this since I was a kid, and now we've turned kind of a hobby into a business, and it just taking something that people look at and go, oh, you can't do that, and we do it.
There's a lot of stuff that people can't do that they try to do. How much stuff do you wind up fixing that other people have tried?
I've got a Mustang out there, a 68 convertible that we're doing right now that came from another shop that is just horrible. Just horrible. We got to take it all apart and start over again. And it's a shame for the people that own the car that we got to do that, but that's how it is. If it's going to be done right, if it's going to leave here, it's going to be right.
So I've got a bad connection on this end. Can you guys hear me clear? Because you're breaking up a little bit. I just don't know if it's on mine or on yours.
No, I can hear you.
Okay. Because you guys are breaking up, and it's probably on my end. If it's too bad, I'll reboot. Sometimes you got to do that. Okay, good. I'll say hi to Muscle City Madness Ruben here. Just Mopar Joe in the chat. Taking care of the kids.
We got one
Mike
of those.
Collins.
We got a Mopar Joe.
Be careful. Don't electrocute yourself, brother.
Well, this is just Mopar Joe.
Okay.
All right. I want to try to pull up something on the screen, because I had asked you about this a few weeks ago. Jason Fitch. No, it's the computer. It's not the Wi-Fi. Let me see if I can show a screen here, because this is your kind of thing. Wanted to see if I could pull it up on my screen. Instead, I'll do it the low-tech way. I usually do it.
The pictures of your car, John?
Yeah, well, I want to show the pictures of what I sent you, because this is something that I kind of got a 2-for-1 deal. And I had them on my desktop, but it doesn't want to let me share it that way. So I'm going to show this to the folks and see if they can even figure out what it is. Now, if you look closely,
it's something on a rotisserie.
Right, it is on a rotisserie.
Yeah.
Okay. This is what happens. This is what happens when a 20-year-old guy decides to take a car completely apart to restore it, has it blasted, doesn't prime it, and rolls it in the garage for 30 years.
Okay, that's rust then. It's not red oxide primer.
Yeah, that's what
It's surface rust.
Yeah.
It's surface rust. And the recovery out of the garage was really interesting. Had to deal with a low carport.
Oh, wow.
Had to flip it over, do a low carport, dollies on the rotisserie. Had to roll it over just to get it out of the garage. The rollback driver, I asked him, I said, is this the first time you've ever come when the car's right side up and you turn it over on purpose? He said it is indeed. But
pretty easy to turn. We don't need a rollback assistance
To move it.
to move
To
it.
bring it.
But anyway,
Yeah.
the body shell is really solid. And so my question for you guys is, when you see something in this kind of shape, what do you do to get it back in shape? So we got a body shell. The spot welds have been drilled out. The quarters have been taken off.
Hasn't been braced properly.
Right. It's just been sitting for 30 years on this rotisserie with no quarters, no glass, and nothing but the shell. What's your starting point for something like that?
Has it been braced up good, John?
No. Not a convertible. No bracing.
Okay.
Start
I
drilling
think-
out spot welds.
Well,
and not
I think
bracing.
the first thing we do with that is probably media blast it to see what we had.
Look at it.
We can go from there, and then what we do after we media blast is we put an etch prime on it. That way, if it's got to sit for a little while we're trying to figure out what it is that we got to do, it's not going to flash rust. We had a lot of, it's humid down here. You're in Virginia.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. In Tennessee here, it's like somebody hit you with a wet blanket. So,
Oh, yeah.
A car that's been blasted, if you just touch it, where you touch it is going to rust right away. So we'll put etch prime on stuff to keep it while we're working on it. But it's something, I have a lot of people that come in and, give me a ballpark figure on my car. Can't really do it until I lay eyes on it. We
Right.
really got to be able to see the car.
But you make game plans for stuff like this and have taken cars in this kind of condition and brought them back.
Oh, yeah.
And that's the thing that's impressive, because a lot of us, we just don't get into that. We at least have something, a shell to work with. This isn't even yet a shell to work with.
Right. We've got a Mustang out there that we put, oh my God, a full floor firewall, aprons, radiator support, quarter panel, trunk floor, trunk lid, doors, fenders, everything. I mean, we basically built the car from scratch. I mean, it's got what, Matt, one quarter panel on it. It's still
One quarter panel.
one quarter panel is original to the car. The rest
We-
of it
Yeah.
we did ourselves. The Coronet that we're doing, the '67 Coronet, that car was, and I've been doing this for a long time, but I looked at that car and said, well, it's pretty much a rust-free car. Well, we put a roof skin on it. We put a trunk floor in it. It's, once you get the car media blasted and get down underneath all undercoating and years of whatever anybody else put in, that's when you find the real bones of what's going on.
Yeah, I find it interesting. This is just something that came in a package deal. It certainly is nothing I would have sought out, but I'm up for the challenge. So I just wanted to ask somebody that this is more in your wheelhouse. I think it's interesting.
Yeah. I like starting from, I mean, I used to take cars and restore them. But now we do a lot more serious ground up from the foundation, no two pieces bolted together, and start over.
We got a question here. I think it's a good one. The science of edge priming.
Yes, edge primer does work. If
How does the science of it work?
Well, it's acid. So it actually eats into the metal and sticks to it, gives you a good base to go on. A lot of people want to put it on real heavy. You don't have to put it on heavy. A light coat of edge prime pretty much stops any kind of flash rusting. The problem when you have a car media blasted or acid dipped or what have you, it removes any kind of undercoating or EDP or anything that's on the car, I mean, into places that you can't see. So you have to be really conscientious about making sure that everything's covered. Otherwise, you're going to get your car all done and the rust is going to start creeping out on you. So we're we make sure there's plenty of product on every car. But it's, I mean, a simple answer to the question, it's acid. It eats into the metal. And that gives you a real strong adhesion for any of the substrates that you're going to put on it, whether it be a sealer or a high build primer or even filler. I mean, I'll edge prime them before we put filler on. A lot of people say you can't put filler on over primer. You can put it on over edge primer.
Well, so question, when you're advising people when they're doing a restoration on what kind of car and what they're in for, because this is a 69 Roadrunner, there's a lot of aftermarket, there's a lot of parts out there. If somebody wanted to do a Jaguar, it would be completely different. If they wanted to do an old Ford, it would be different. So what do you tell people when they want to bring in something really weird that there aren't parts for?
Well, I mean, we can fabricate a lot of stuff, and we do it on a regular basis, but most cars, things are available for. We've got a 67 Porsche 912 we're doing, and we got a lot of parts for that car. A lot of them had to come from Germany. It depends on your commitment to the car.
Right.
This is not something for the faint of heart. It's expensive to get it done right. There's no two ways about it. I'm not going to beat around the bush. I'm not going to lie to anybody and tell you, yeah, we can do it for X amount of dollars, because you just simply don't know. Until the project's underway, you really don't know how much it's going to cost. I mean, when I started in this business, somebody would bring me a car and go, yeah, I can make it nice, $5,000, and that, $5,000 now goes away really, really fast.
Really, doesn't do a lot nowadays.
No, it doesn't. It's, I've talked to a couple of people this week. We've got a 50 Ford truck that we're taking in. We're doing a complete Scott's chassis on it with a 7.3 Godzilla motor and a 10-speed automatic. So we're getting more and more work like that. It's not, this is not for the faint of heart. If you want it done correctly,
right.
It's don't be scared, because it's going to cost you a little bit of money.
Yep.
And we are probably not the most expensive place to get your car done. We're not. I mean, both Matt and I and Austin and Joe and everybody here likes doing the work we do. So there is a cost savings as opposed to going to a big name shop or something like that. We enjoy doing it. I mean, I get up in the morning and I'm here 7 days a week, John, 8 o'clock in the morning. And even if I just come down here and watch Netflix, I'm here in this building. So it's a commitment that we've all made that we actually enjoy doing this stuff. And if you want to have us do it, you are going to get an exceptional job without a doubt. But you're what I tell people is you really kind of got to listen to what I advise you on. I'm more than welcome to listen to anybody else's input, but I've been doing it long enough to where if I say you're really going to need this, you're going to need it.
Well, that's a good point. There's two things. One, your shop is named after you. You have your
Yes.
name on your shop, which means that if you had a big disaster, a public relations disaster for not treating your customers right and doing shoddy work, you can't go across town and just pick another generic name. And there are places that do that. I'm convinced they named their shop, unique, exotic, thriller shop or some weird name like that. Because that way, when they get lawsuits and unhappy people and everything else, they can move across town, get another generic name, and start over.
It's not tied to them. Exactly.
That's right.
This is tied to me. Everything, and I've told anyone that's ever worked for me or anybody that's ever had a car done here is that when it leaves here, my name is on it. Okay. We went to a show, what was it, Joe, last weekend before last, and there were quite a few cars there that I had my hand in. My name is on that car. And
that's right.
All the people that I've done cars for that put them in shows and cruise nights and things like that, they're not afraid to say that they were done here. And I'm not, I never, when a car leaves, I'm not like crossing my fingers that they never say my name. I want my name. I want my name out there, and I want people to know that we did it.
Well, that's something we have in common. My YouTube channel is just my name. And I have my real picture, my real name, which means that I have to take ownership of everything I post, everything I say. And, I understand people want to have, a different type of name, a corporate name, a theme. I get it. But there is something that comes with having to own your channel content. And, you're owning your business and everything that way.
I started, we're under an umbrella. It's called Mobile Tech Automotive Incorporated. I started Mobile Tech 12 or 13 years ago. I did mobile auto repair when I first moved to Tennessee. When I was in Connecticut on the East Coast, I had Jim's Auto Body. Okay, it's me. And I've done restoration pretty much all my life. Decided I didn't want to do it anymore. Got into working on cars and doing mechanical work. And now they've just made it so difficult to own the equipment you got to own and all of that. I said, no, I'll go back and restore cars because 70 Super B is so much easier to work on than a 2015 Kia. But it all comes down to your integrity. The reason why I started my YouTube channel, people may think it's to make money or whatever. Hey, John, if it does, great. If it doesn't, that's great too.
Right.
But the reason why we started the channel was for customers to be able to follow along with their car, see what's getting done on their car on a daily basis. And I'm not saying that every day their car gets worked on, because it doesn't. Right now, there's only two of us, so it gets a little stressful sometimes. But it's so people can tune in and see what's going on. It's total transparency. It's not one of the Mustangs that I have out there that we're doing. I've spent a week just taking filler out of this car.
Yeah, I saw that on your channel. The filler,
oh my God,
quarter-inch thicker.
Yeah, it's crazy. And not saying, and he did a nice job of sculpting that car, but it's not it's not shaped like a 1968 Mustang should be shaped.
Right.
He did a nice job of converting it into a giant plastic convertible. So we're going to take it back and make it correct.
Well, that's a big deal to me. And everybody's got their weird quirks, things that, like, for instance, I'm getting a motor mount ear welded on a DeSoto block. I will not use a Chevy or a Ford ear on it. I know it's just cast iron, but I'm not going to infuse some other DNA into my block. It's just one of my weird quirks, right?
Right.
Another one is no matter how well you do your filler and stuff, if you change the shape ever so slightly, it's not a Mustang anymore. Now it's whatever that is. And to me, that just weirds me out. I like it to have the body lines that its DNA say it should have.
Yeah, I'm not a huge custom guy, and I've got a lot of respect for the guys that build customs and build rat rods and do all that kind of stuff. It's an art. But my thing is I want to bring your car back to normal, the appearing. Drivetrain aside, suspension aside, all that. As far as the outside of the car goes, it needs to look like it did. That's what makes me happy, is bringing that kind of stuff back. We've got a guy starting in December who I think everybody's going to be pretty happy with me hiring this guy. He's from California. I hired him out of California, and I'm not going to say anything more about it than that, but he's pretty high level, and he's been involved with some pretty serious projects.
Very cool.
Yeah, we intend to be a force to be reckoned with in Middle Tennessee, if not everywhere. And this is one step that we're taking, bringing this guy on board. That it's a little scary. I'm not scared of the work that he does, but it's just a little scary, to bring somebody on at this level. But we're going to do it.
Well, speaking of that, and so this question, this has nothing to do with dirt, but this is just a general business question. You've had experiences with employees, just in general. What is it like managing a crew? I know that
it's horrible. It's horrible. It's Matt. Matt is awesome. Matt goes to work. Matt does what he's got to do. He understands that there's a nut to be met every month. Okay. And he understands that. I've had people here before, and a lot of people have asked questions as to where he is now. And that's a prima donna. I don't, you have to enjoy this. Managing people is not nearly as fun as some people may think it is. If I worked at McDonald's and I was yelling at somebody because the fryolator wasn't clean enough, that would be different, because it's not my name on it. It's that clown's name. Here, when a car leaves, you can't take 4 days to repair a part that I can buy for $200. It doesn't make financial sense. It doesn't show your skill. I want skilled artisans, basically, is what these guys are. I mean, Matt is a mechanic beyond anything I've seen, short of my buddy Dave in Connecticut. And Dave, if I could get Dave here working with you, it would be outstanding. But as far as bodywork goes, if you're good at it and you know it, that's great. Do your job. But if you're really, really good at it and you want to be a prima donna and you want to have people patting you on the back for everything you do, this is not going to be the place to work. You have to enjoy it. You got to enjoy the finished product.
Counting me, there are 8 people who work with me at my company. And personnel management is probably the least fun part of any of it. It's just not what I want to do. I want to get out and do my craft. I want to be able to teach them and help them do their craft. And to me, that's where it's at.
When I started working on cars, because I enjoyed working on cars. Each level that you take it to, it becomes more difficult to get out there and work on cars. We're in the office right now. Okay. 90% of my day now is spent in this office, and I absolutely hate it. I've got to do the research and find the parts, which we all know is a major nightmare right now for anything.
You obviously can't go to Napa and get it.
Yeah, you can't go to Napa and get it. You can't. I mean, I tried to get 3/8 vacuum line the other day from O'Reilly's, and they said, we don't have any. I'm like, what? But I'm in here, paying bills, researching parts, answering calls. I like selling jobs. I like talking to the people and getting them pumped up about what it is that we're going to do with their car. that I enjoy. They're taking their vision and going, yeah, we can do that. But, you know, I got a cable bill. I got an internet bill. I got an electric bill. I got the rent. I got all of this and that. You know, sometimes I'll be working in here and I'll look at the clock and go, it's 3:30. I haven't done anything in the shop.
Yeah.
You know, and my thing is I want to be in the shop. You know, with the guy that we've got starting in December, Matt does great body work, and he's a crackerjack mechanic. The guy that I've got starting does great body work. Nobody wants to paint. I love painting. So it's like I was telling him, when you start in December, do you want to get these cars to a point, you know, come up in the office and tell me, hey, it's all taped up in the booth, ready for you to go. I'll go in there. I'll put a beautiful coat of paint on it. It'll be smoother than a dolphin's forehead when I'm done with it.
You know what? That
I want to learn how to paint.
Yeah, I'll teach you how to paint. I got no problem with that.
Anybody that wasn't
That
drunk when they was painting.
Let's see. Let me get this question. It says,
Yeah.
Jim, what is one tool or piece of equipment you wish your shop had or you're saving up for? I would like a really, really large sandblasting cabinet.
how big a sandblasting cabinet? How big
6
we
feet,
talking?
6 feet.
Big enough to do like
bumpers, rear ends, things like that. Frames, I've got an outside vendor that I call when we have to do a frame or something like that, and that's understandable. I went from about 3,600 square feet to 10,000, and I thought for sure there's no way I can fill this up. Let me tell you something.
like that.
Done. Just like that. Okay. So, but a big blast cabinet, I mean, Matt and I are working on an 86 GMC truck right now that we're restoring. It's got 36,000 miles on it. It's this gentleman's father-in-law's truck that was bought brand new. And he wants this truck brand new, just like his father-in-law bought it. So, you know, there's little alternator brackets, things like that. Generally, I save up a big giant pile, and I have the guy that comes and does sandblasting for me blast all that stuff. Well, if I had a little cabinet, we got, let me see. Oh, yeah, I'm looking at the camera. We got Austin right here. You know, Austin can stand in front of that cabinet and sandblast. So that's one thing I really want. We're building right now an 8-foot by 6-foot powder coating oven.
Nice.
So we're going to do all our own powder coating and thing. The more stuff that I can keep in house, the better off we'll be, and the more that I can give to people that want their car done. I bought a sewing machine. I want to teach myself how to do upholstery.
Cool.
I probably wouldn't recommend you bringing me your car for the first one that I do upholstery on, but I will learn how to do it. My own truck, I bought all new upholstery for that truck. I'm going to put it on there, and we'll see how that goes.
Do you ever talk people out of doing a full restoration? Like you look at the car and
Absolutely.
say, "This is so nice. We really shouldn't take this apart."
I've tried. There's a lot of people that are dead set on having their car made brand new. I have a 1963 Galaxy that, John, to be honest with you, I would drive that car every day. It's that clean. But they want this car completely dismembered, start over, all new. And the GMC truck that we're doing, the 86 GMC truck, same way. I'd have driven that thing like it was going out of style. And nope, we want it.
Well, you
here.
had that Plymouth. That was it a GTX or a Satellite that was in there? I think you had on a rotisserie. That looked like a really nice car.
Cornet. That car had been 17, 18 years. Interesting story with that car. She bought it when she was 17 years old. She's my age. I'm 57. She's had it that long. Transmission went in it about 15 years ago, and it sat in her mom's garage for that entire time. So that car will be brand new as well. And it's a little different than that Galaxy. That Galaxy I'd drive just the way it is. I mean, I wouldn't change a thing. Um,
A lot of it too depends on what kind of car person it is, because not all car people are just car people. You have
Right.
car show people, then you have people who like to race with cars, et cetera, et cetera. So for me, I would rather own 10 cars in various states and conditions. But if you're going to be a person who has one daily driver and then one dream car, I guess I can see that. That makes more sense.
as long as I've been doing this, John, I don't own a dream car. I've had a lot of cool cars, but I have, with the exception of a few times, I've never owned a restored vehicle. What brings me joy is the process of actually doing it. Owning it, maybe not so much. I had
Right. I get that.
I had a 68 Sport Fury. I had a 65 Barracuda. I had a 65 Dodge Dart. I had all these really cool cars. I got them done. I'm like, huh, okay, and sold it. And I've got a 85 Chevrolet K10 4-wheel drive truck that I drive. I've got a 99 Chevrolet Dually that I drive, and they're all they're way up in mileage and stuff. But that's what does it for me. I don't have the time to drive a restored car, and I've been doing shows and things like that all my life. I go to a show now and I sit down for about 10 minutes. I'm like, I could be doing something. What am I doing sitting here? And then I get some fair food and head on home.
Well, so before we get to Lunar's question, craziest thing you've seen Bondo held on with?
Jelly donuts.
I guess, like, what's that?
Jelly donuts.
I've seen a lot. I've seen door screens.
Yeah. Seriously.
But I'm not saying
aluminum foil, duct tape, but jelly donuts, I think, is going to be the most incredible thing I've ever seen in my life. It was actually jelly donuts in the rocker panel of this is when I used to do dealer work. I had a Toyota Previa minivan that they stuffed the rocker with donuts and then Duraglassed over them.
So they just fossilized the donuts to hold up the Bondo.
Exactly. It was just a backer. That was all.
And it was on a Toyota Previa?
Yeah. I had a buddy of mine that had an old Ford, like a telephone van, and it was all rusted out. So he took that spray foam and sprayed it in all the rust, and then went in his house and had a beer and came out. And I mean, it had just gone out the sides and down and stuck to the driveway. And I mean, it was everywhere. And he just hacksawed it off and little spray primer, and he was good to go. Yeah. It's scary. It is really scary what people will do to cars. It's scary.
When I was in college, I remember tripping in the hallway and falling and putting a huge hole down real low.
You had me there for a minute, but now you lost me. Go ahead.
So I tripped, and I put a hole in the drywall, probably a foot high, stud to stud, right above the baseboard. And I was a teenager, and I'm thinking, okay, got to get the deposit back somehow. So I remember taking cereal boxes and putting in there, and newspaper, and then Bondo, and painted it. And I got the deposit back, and I'm thinking, maybe I could do body work after all.
I'll tell you, John, the funny thing is I've had a few houses, and they were older houses and things like that. I can do Bondo and body work like it's nobody's business. I cannot do drywall. Can't do it.
No, I can't either. But this got the deposit back. It served its purpose.
Yeah. But see, with a house, I mean, you patch up your wall like that and you get your deposit back, it's going to stay that way. But if somebody just said, brown paper towels in a rocker panel or something like that, as soon as it gets wet, it's just going to explode. It's just going to be horrible.
Right. Well, I mean, we all live and hopefully evolve to do better work and learn these things. That was just called a teenager had to get a deposit back, but
done. You do what you got to do.
But it all comes back.
That kind of brings up an interesting point. Is I never went to school for this. was born.
Teenagers do sketchy stuff.
I was born a poor child and never had a shiny car. And if I wanted a car, I need to make it run. And then once I made it run, I wanted a shiny car so people would think I was somewhere. So I learned how to do body work. It's all self-taught, every single bit of it.
Well, let me ask you, since we have a group of people here that looks like almost all of them, for the most part, are familiar with you and your channel and they've seen your work, what would be something that you did maybe when you were a teenager that was a good learning experience and a how not to do it? You got a lot of education, like some experience you did working on something that you paid a lot of tuition in and said, now I know how not to do it. What was that?
I had a, I don't know what year it was, 71, 72 snub nose Ford Econoline van, one of the real shorties. Yeah. And it was, I'm from the East Coast, so it was rotted to the door handles. And a buddy of mine says, hey, let's buy some sheet metal and we can braze it and do it. Well, I'll tell you what, heat is a horrible, horrible thing when you're doing body work, because we braze a panel in, and over here you hear twang, bing, because it's bending. Just absolutely destroyed it. When it was done, it was cool. I was fine with it, but it wasn't. I learned a lot about heat transfer and things like that. I had I think the first car I ever did body work on was my dad's '69 Cadillac. He had a '69 Coupe de Ville with some rust on it. So I could fix that. Went down to Napa and got some 80 grit paper and some nitro stan. If any of you old people out there remember what nitro stan is, and some countersunk rivets, because you can put Bondo over them and they won't show. Not for 2 or 3 days, but after that they will. My dad was proud to drive his car, but I know in my heart that I destroyed that car doing body work to it. So a lot of people out there, probably one of your best lessons that you're going to learn is by screwing something up, because you'll never do that again.
Yeah. Yeah, well, there's a lot to that. So Duddy asks, do you have any recommendations on products for killing or converting rust? In general, what is your thoughts on converting rust? That's become a relatively new term.
Yeah, rust never sleeps. Okay, so you're not, there's products out there that says converts rust to carbon steel. No, it doesn't. It's rust that turns black. We use a product, we sandblast or wire wheel or do what we got to do, and then we use a product SEM makes. It's called Rust Mort, Rust-MORT. I like it. It works. It works well. Is it exactly the way to go? To me, exactly the way to go is, if it's rust, remove it, period. But Rust Mort, a quality product, will work. Don't believe turns it into Kevlar or turns it into bulletproof this or that or the other thing. It's still rust. It just turns it black. But Rust Mort does, from what I've seen, it slows it down or stops it as best you possibly can.
If people described rust honestly, you would know exactly what you're saying is true, because rust is iron oxide. So yes. if they actually said this product will make the oxidation process reverse and go back into the steel, that's literally what they're trying to claim.
Yeah,
but that's not what it's doing.
If that worked, John, I'd just put it on with an acid brush and go home and have a beer and come back, and the car's got a beautiful quarter panel on it the next morning.
Right.
It doesn't. You can slow it down, but unless you remove it, there's no stopping it.
So this is a fine enough comment to just mention this on. One thing that I appreciate about your channel, and I'm like this too in my business. Okay, so I'm wearing my Colonial shirt here. You know what? I made a decision. When the world
has motorcycle vest on.
The world lost its mind here about about 2014 with politics, right? That seemed
Okay.
like the year when every single grievance in the world could possibly come up, right? And everybody decided that we don't want to do business with this person. We don't like this person. We want to boycott this and that and whatever. So that's when I said, you know what? I don't care anymore. I am who I am. I'm not going to worry. If you are offended by me, good. I don't want your business. And you know what? My business grew because people appreciated that I am who I am, and that's it. So I appreciate that you hang up you wear your opinions on your sleeve while you're shop, and it's like, if this offends you, you don't have to do business with me. You don't care, and I like that.
It's that simple. I have my opinions.
Yeah.
Everyone's entitled to their own opinion, John, even if it's wrong.
Yeah.
But this is a fine line we got to walk here. But
yeah,
it's something I believe that. I know I have to be careful.
Right. Well, but
I agree. I agree with what you said. If somebody is going to be wildly different from the opinions I hold, we can probably do somebody else's car.
But the principle of it is I think it takes an extra measure of integrity to say, I'm going to just show you with an open book who I am. And if you want to be open-minded and still want to do business like adults, we can. Like, I sell real estate for a living. I'm in my 19th year now. And I sell property to people who completely disagree with me on just about everything. But as long as we're adults and they say, you know what, I want your experience and your skill to help me make my real estate transaction happen. And I'm like, good, we can work with that. And I do it all the time. I have friends that I don't agree with on anything, but we can work together because we have that understanding. And so I just appreciate it when people in business don't try to hide who they are. I think it's almost like an extra, it's a counterproductive thing with transparency. You should be able to be who you are, and people should be grown up enough to work together and like adults, like we used to before the world lost its mind in 2014.
Thank you. I am who I am. We're all who we are.
Yeah.
And we're careful. Actually, we're not that careful.
No.
I was going to say, we're careful not to offend people, but this is, what part of your version of the world do I have to partake in?
Right.
I
appreciate that you guys can be who you are and give everybody the chance to just be respectful with everybody and not try to hide it. I know guys in town who are so afraid to let their opinions on anything be known, and I'm thinking, yeah, but what else are you going to hide? I just appreciate the honesty that comes with that. So I'm that way, and I know that there are certain customers who will never darken my door, and I don't care. It's been good. It's been a net positive for business just because of the honesty it brings.
Yes, and that's true. And I've found that most people that I associate with, most of the people that are my customers are like-minded. People who are not necessarily like-minded still take the business for what it's worth. Okay, if somebody is not going to have me restore their car because I was not happy for Brandon,
right?
Then I don't need to restore their car. I'll just pick another one.
They have already shown you that they're not reasonable, so you've saved yourself a bad journey of somebody who is not reasonable.
Yeah, I'm actually kind of good at reading people, so
good.
I can kind of. Okay, this may be a problem down the road. I may want to rethink this whole program, so that something may get talked out of the project they want to do, and I may refer another shop to them. And the shop I generally would refer them to, maybe not the best one in the world, but
I run into that too. I once had an agent that it was a newer agent, didn't have a lot of experience. And she had an opportunity to do property management on a really nice lake house. And I knew what the ulterior motive was. She's like, okay, when there's vacancies, my husband and I, we got the lake house, right? And I get that. I had no problem with that. But I said, you know what? I'm reading between the lines with everything you're telling me. And I think that woman is going to cause you more grief trying to work for her And you know what? A year later, she found another property manager. She was looking for a lawyer, wanted to litigate, had all these problems. I said, aren't you glad you didn't take that one?
Yeah.
You know, you've been in business, you see it.
That comes with age. It comes with wisdom. It comes with, oops, been there before, done that. You those red flags pop up, and you're like, okay, let's move on to something else.
Oh, here's a quick one from Blake. You know, we don't, because of YouTube and all the copyright stuff, we don't normally know what kind of music do people listen to in their shop. So when you're not filming, what do you have on?
I am a huge fan of like 70s kind of music. That's my thing. Matt is country, which I'm perfectly fine with. Actually, his country is more of a like an Americana type stuff. I enjoy that, but I'm all across the board. I mean, 70s music, disco. I remember in the 80s, I'm like, disco sucks. And now I listen to disco and I'm crying driving down the road. It's like, I love that song, you know, but it's mostly 70s music. I like classic rock. I've got Sirius XM in my truck and car and stuff like that. I listen to 70s music, country, whatever. It's okay.
It's one thing that we just don't normally get to see on YouTube because of the copyright. So, Mr. Will's asking you a question there. What would you say on that?
Move south. Move south. You need to, like, okay, let's just go way out on a limb here. Sandblasting. I used to have Davey Huffman that does my sandblasting from me did dustless sandblasting. That was the big thing. Okay, is they would sandblast with water and a glass media. The problem is that sand, the water takes that glass or whatever you're using, gets down into all the nooks and crannies. Okay, so without going into a big explanation on that, if you're driving down the road and there's salt and sand and brine and beet juice and all that stuff they use, if your car's wet underneath, all of that is going to get in everywhere. You can go to the car wash as much as you want and rinse that car out. When we had cars dustless sandblasted, it would take me days to get that sand out of nooks and crannies. And you always find it when you go across it with a paint gun, because the paint gun, when it gets to an area, it's going to create a vacuum and suck it out. You may have been blowing it out and hosing it out and doing everything for a week, thought you got it all, until you're putting that coat of clear on there. You don't really find out where it really comes from. So long story short, the best way to prevent rust is to don't drive it in the snow. You know, if it's don't park in the grass. Don't leave your car for an extended period of time with moisture. And not everybody can do it. I can't do it. It's climate controlled garage that's heated and cooled and humidity's low. It's really, really hard to. Yes, Matt is a huge ABBA fan.
He's jamming out the Dancing Queen.
Oh yeah, Dancing Queen, man, that's his jam.
Don't even have a clue what you're talking about right now.
That's a little bit younger than us. He may not know who ABBA is. When I was younger, I did not care for ABBA, but you know what? Kind of dig ABBA now. Like Bread. I don't know.
Bread?
Yeah, Bread. Bread's a cool band.
Wheat or what?
Oh, hey, if you want to feel old, I think I was born the year Dancing Queen came out, I think. That 1977?
Oh, man, you're thanks for making me feel old, John. I appreciate it. Yeah.
All right. These got a good crew in here. Yeah, you get them on music, you know. Okay, so
Rose, Leonard Skinner, Marshall.
What do you guys think about this? And I don't think there's a question in here. It's just a comment. Long spot welded metal lap joints. What kind of weld is he talking about there? Is it like how they put the panels on the old Jeeps and stuff with spot welds?
Well, here's the thing: if you've got a factory panel and you take a panel and weld against it, okay, now you have two thicknesses of metal.
Right.
put your car out in the sun and watch what happens. Okay, that's why we'll do a lot of stuff we do is a butt weld. Okay, because you're not going to see. I did years and years and years ago, 69 GTO convertible. We put quarter skins on, and we overlapped them. Was very careful not to warp everything. Very careful with the welds. You put that car out in the sun, and you let that sun beat on that quarter. You have one thickness of metal here, two thicknesses of metal here, and then one here. They're going to heat and expand differently.
Yep.
So out in the sun, you can see everywhere. So long spot weld, metal lap joints. If they're somewhere structural, that's one thing. If it's somewhere that's going to show, you're probably going to have an issue with it.
Okay, so let's say you're doing just example, like you're doing a fender for an old Jeep. They had that metal sandwich going on the fenders, and they all rusted there really bad.
Yeah, yeah.
What would you do with that if you wanted to improve that?
That's a tough one. Okay, if the vehicle was built a certain way, that's kind of the way we do it. I've got a CJ out there now, a CJ5 that I'm doing. That's the same thing. You can, if you can improve upon what they did, and make yourself a panel that doesn't have that overlap on it.
Yeah,
you're going to be better off. But you don't have to deal with that so much here in the South. It's in the places that they treat the roads, salt and things like that. But moisture is, to a lesser extent, just as damaging as salt is. But it's tough. There are certain things in the automotive manufacturing process that you simply cannot overcome. You can do your best to make it better. There's chemicals, there's all kinds of different treatments you can do, but if it's overlap metal and there's a place for moisture to get in, it's going to get in.
Well, let me ask you this then. So a solid bead of weld is one thing. What would you do to seal something like that? Like, let's say that you wanted to put something back with an overlap because it kind of has to be. Is there a method you would recommend trying to seal it to give it its best chance of longevity?
There are seam sealers. There are a lot of different projects you can use. It depends on if you're doing something in the trunk, if you're doing something under the car, if you're doing a panel that's exposed that you can see. There are all different steps to take on all of those different situations. So it's kind of a tough question to answer. There are ways to overcome it, but you can't fool Mother Nature. If there's a way for moisture to get in somewhere, it's going to get in. So you have to take that into account when you're redoing a car. Okay, the car was built this way. They weren't paying that much attention to drainage when the car was built. Let's pay a little bit more attention to that. So when the water comes in, there's a way for it to get out. Because a lot of times in older cars, the water, once it got in, it was kind of trapped. It could get out, but if it got some leaves in there or some sand or something like that, the way for it to get out was eliminated. And that's, you see the bottom of front fenders a lot of times, they're all rotted out. It's because they got packed with mouse bones and leaves and whatever else, and there's no way out for it. So you have to pay attention to it. It's not just a matter of making the car shiny, it's making it so it's going to stay that way. So you've got to pay attention to some stuff that the 60s engineers didn't really pay that much attention to.
Looks like Lunar Outlaw wants us to go spend the night in the hood. So we'll do. Well, this guy, William Sanders, says he tries to avoid New Jersey as much as possible. Well, I agree. It has nothing to do with the weather, though.
Exactly. 67 Cherry Hill. Woo!
I hate it when that happens. Your train of thought gets derailed. But
welcome to my world, brother.
Yeah, I know it. Danny Boyd says he spends most of his nights in the hood. Well, you know what? It happens. So my old race car, I have a 73 Dart Sport, And
Life
the
ain't gonna
thing-
get you nowhere but in prison, brother, or in the
They-
grave.
that dart sport had no glass in it, but they had taken all the body plugs out of the floor pans so it would drain, and the floors look fine. I can't
Yeah.
believe how much difference that made just having drainage.
I don't know why they did that. A lot of manufacturers, when like your inner like trunk floor drop offs, they have drain holes in them that they put a rubber plug in. Why bother putting the hole in?
That's where it first
Right.
starts.
Yeah.
Right over that hole.
So
So
plug wasn't there.
old cars, if you got a decent old car, you can take that out. But the problem is, if water can get out, water can get in. So it's a matter of, you know, you've got to be careful with the car, and you've got to, if you've got a nice car that you're looking to keep nice, you need to stay out of that kind of environment. You know, if you're going to use your 70 Roadrunner for a daily driver through the winter in upstate New York, you're going to have some problems.
Okay, so that's a good question. So we look at old cars, we look at the way they're made, we look at new cars the way they're made. Without all the biases, what would you say is better about the way they make new cars, and what would you say is better about the way they made old ones? So if you got to pick and choose between engineering, material quality, etc., what would you say is what truly makes the older cars better?
Material, it's heavier. The metal's heavier. I mean, you can, you know, you lean up against a quarter panel on a Honda, you're going to do $1,800 worth of damage to it.
Yeah.
You lean up against a quarter panel on a 70 Dodge truck, dude, I don't care what you do to it, you're not going to hurt it. The technology, I don't care for all the technology. I just don't. To me, it's a problem waiting to happen. You know, your power seat's going to stop working. Your GPS is going to stop working. Your this, that, and the other thing's going to stop working. Older cars are very archaic. The technology in them is just Flintstones kind of simple. New cars, great. They get 35 miles to the gallon. Old cars didn't. You know, so that's a cool thing. But the old cars reflected your personality. New car, when I was a kid, I could sit in the back window of a car 6, 7, 8, 9 years old and tell you what every car was by its marker lights at night.
Me too.
You can't do that anymore.
Me and my brother played a game.
Hey, I want to thank them. I don't know how I missed this other than StreamYard. The comments jump a few at a time on this side. Mopar Dan asks, what does Jim think of the use of those breathable car covers versus just letting the car sit out in the open?
I just let it sit out in the open.
Okay. So you think that the car cover is worse than it's worth?
Yes. Yep.
Very fair.
As far as moisture and things, breathable, okay. Wet it down, put it over your face, and see if you can breathe through it. Okay. They're not breathable. Don't try because it won't work. I would just leave it out, you know, unless you live at like Mount St. Helens and you got acid fallout and stuff like that. They're great. Car covers are great for taking care of any kind of chemicals or, you know, acid rain, that kind of thing, but they're going to do damage to your paint. You know, at the risk of sounding uppity or something like that, if you don't have a garage, don't restore a car.
Yeah, you either have a garage or you don't. A car either inside or outside.
What car rust out on the moon?
That's a good question.
Most AMC products. Most AMC products.
I am honest about that. I ain't never seen no cars up there yet.
Well, one of these days you're going to get a Tesla in there that Elon Musk took with him, and you can find out.
Yeah, Captain Kirk's going to drive it.
So, you know, this kind of reminds me of something else I was thinking. Wild Rose Garage says the old steel will get a patina. New steel's not going to get a patina. It just disintegrates. It's too thin.
Yes.
It's not, you know.
Yes.
What do you think the kind of the cutoff is going to be on what you can do with these cars, because you had so much more, like a car from the 30s, you had a huge amount of metal to work with, right? And the metal has gotten thinner through the decades, and it was still good in the 60s, 70s. But man, I mean, they're making cars out of soda cans now. So
yeah, the mid 70s pretty much ended it for me as far as vehicles go. I did a 38 Ford truck once that had some damage in the back side of the cab behind the door, like cab corner, a little bit higher. 5-pound sledgehammer with everything I had, swinging it on the inside of that to try and get the dent out.
wow.
It's not that way anymore. There's no, nobody's going to go into a barn in 20 years and go, oh, it's a 2003 Kia.
No,
I can make it run. It'll never run again, ever.
That hammer would literally go through that 2003 Kia. It would literally go through. It would stretch the metal to where it would tear and go through.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. I mean, I did production body work for auction cars and new dealerships and stuff like that, which is absolutely soul sucking work. It's horrible. But you try and take care of a dent over here, you're going to create one over here. It just oil cans. And the old metal, when you shape the old metal, you're actually shaping it like a slap file, which you can't use anymore on a car because you're going to slant it right through the panel.
I never thought about that, but you couldn't.
No.
I went to a dealership's body shop here a few years ago, and I saw one. I thought it looked like a pretty good fender, and it was for like a Honda or something, and it had a couple small dents in it. And I said, "Yeah, that's not a bad fender." And he said, "Oh no, that's what we took off." He said, "We can't fix that fender. There's not enough there to fix."
Right.
And you can't get those two dents out without just making a huge mess.
Right. Well, they've gone to now like hot glue guns for dent pullers, because you can't use. Yes, you can't use. I think Kiko is the name, and I follow all that stuff. I pay attention to it. It's not anything I need, but I know what it is. Stud welder that we use for pulling dents and making patches or whatever, that actually spot welds a pin to the car that you can put a slide hammer on and pull a dent out. New cars, you pull that trigger right through it.
Yeah,
it burns it right through it. So everything is gone. Let's make it lighter. Let's make it more fuel efficient. Let's make it out of aluminum. It's like,
Well, it's funny because every time that a factory does an experiment with something and they see that it doesn't work, it'll come back a few years later. You'll have new engineers that say, "Hey, let's try this thing again." Like they're going to be the ones to make it work.
Yeah.
It's just like that. In the 80s, General Motors, to save weight on cars or whatever, used an aluminum wire to the taillights in the back. Have you guys ever run into one of those? It was in the 80s on GM cars. They would use a solid aluminum conductor to the taillights, and it's barely flexible. It's real stiff, and you can't solder to it. You have to crimp, and it's just it's a mess. They went away from it. But I just heard where another manufacturer later tried it again. There's just nothing new under the sun.
Yeah, I kind of swore off any kind of new technology. I did general repairs for quite some time and on newer vehicles, and it's just not rewarding. You don't want to go to work in the morning. You're ready to go home in the afternoon. It's just nasty. They don't give you any room.
Well, so Danny Boyd's got a good question here. So when you're looking for patch panels and replacement panels, let's say that the old panels are unobtainium. You can't get a fixable panel from a yard or a swap meet or whatever. What's your go-to?
AMD.
AMD?
Automotive Direct, Real Deal Steel. One of those, you have to be careful. Don't stay away from eBay. Don't buy anything on eBay unless you're buying Beanie Babies. You can't buy car parts on eBay because they're going to come from China. And if they get here, they're going to be crap. You need to get your repair. I bought repair panels before that are super, super heavy. I
Right.
mean, very, very comparable to original steel floor pads, things like that. You have to be careful where you buy them. I mean, if oh, this one's $80, but this one's 30. Look, I just saved $50. No, actually you didn't. You just cost yourself a bunch more money. It's expensive. Any way you look at it, the more, I'm not saying go out and look for the highest price part you can possibly find and buy that one, but do your research. If it's $30 and a good one's 120, there's a reason. It's like somebody coming to me and I tell them, hey, it's going to be, $15,000 to paint your car. Oh, I can get it done for 600. Go get it done for 600. And then when you come to me to get it done, it's going to be 20,000 because I got to take that $600 paint job off your car.
Yep.
You get what you pay for.
When did that stuff really start coming into the market? Because I remember in the 90s, or could have been late 80s, early 90s, I remember when it seemed like there was an explosion in the Taiwan, the ROC. They were all the same. They were cheap, stamped patch panels. And like a friend of mine bought some for a 79 Ford truck. And I took the patch panel and held it up next to a panel on his truck. I said, the body line is off by a half an inch.
Yes.
It wasn't even, I'm not talking even a small amount. There was no matching this.
Yeah. And it always amazed me because they went through the time to do the tooling and the time to get whatever licensing they needed to get and then stamped out the wrong parts on purpose.
It seems amazing to me.
But you're right with that timeline. It was in the 80s there somewhere. Dude, everything went to crap in the 80s. Music went to crap in the 80s. Everything, just everything. It was, if people could save $1, they saved $1. If they could spend money to look, like they could spend money, they did. Nobody cared. And quality and that, maybe that's when we initially sold out to China. I don't know, but you mentioned it, ROC, Taiwan, all that kind of stuff. I hate it. I do my research. I look if it's and one of the reasons why I'll try and buy American-made stuff is not because I am this, gun-toting, Second Amendment, cornbread eating, whatever. It's because it's quality. I don't care for cornbread, but
I love it.
See, that's weird. But it's quality stuff.
Cornbread casserole, what's the difference?
Do you really think anybody in China really gives a crap about your 70 Cornet? No.
What if you?
One of my fans that stopped by the other day, he mentioned about him buying a bunch of old wore out dies from whatever you say, Ford or GM or whatever. So they've stamped out so many thousands of panels, and now they sell them, and then they keep using this old worn out die, and it creates a panel that.
Well, that's like fiberglass. When people make a mold to do fiberglass parts, you can only make so many, and then it destroys the mold. The heat destroys it. So stamping, if they bought my thing is back in the 80s when they started coming out. I know exactly what you're talking about, that arch that goes over on a Ford.
Yep.
They would get a real Ford truck or a real Ford quarter panel and make their part off of that.
That doesn't work.
No, it's going to be bigger or smaller depending on which side you make it from.
Yeah.
And they didn't care. It looks the same in the box.
Well,
on the vehicle.
Well, but the other side of that is, if you think about it, the metal has to have a certain elasticity so that when you stamp it, it can actually kind of spring to the correct shape after the stamp itself is done. If you make a mold from the part that as it was stamped, it might be off just a little from factory so that the as stamped one you made is off a little bit just because of that.
Yeah.
I mean,
I will not put inferior parts on a person's car here. If they want to buy the parts, that's fine. I don't have a problem with that, but you're going to buy the part I tell you to buy. If you save $20 and buy the ROC part, it's not going to work. I remember when I had my shop in Connecticut, I was doing a first gen Firebird for a kid, and the car's coming out real nice, needed all new window trim and stuff like that. I said, buy it from GM because you still could. And I said, don't get me that thin crap Taiwan, whatever it is. Well, he brought it, and I was trying to put it in the car. And, when you're putting molded in, you got to kind of pop it like this. Every time I did, it would dent. And I remember taking it off of that car and folding it up and in a ball and throwing it out the garage door. And the kid was horrified. Like, you didn't buy what I told you to buy. I said, now buy what I told you to buy.
You know what? I've taught firearms professionally for 12 years, and I've been a lot of places and trained. And one of my esteemed trainers, Clint Smith, he had a student that had a really horrible holster on. And the holster came out with the guy's pistol while he's training. And Clint took the holster, put it on the ground, and stomped on it. And then he had one of his assistants go get him a good holster and said, here, take this. He said, you know what? This thing is not doing you any favors. And that was the right answer. But he saved that guy a lot of grief. So you did similar. You did what was the right answer. The guy might not have understood it at the moment, but you did the right thing and you made an impression.
It's like Austin with this Kevlar vest on. Watch this. Let me get my gun. I want to show you. No, it may be good. It may not be good. You got to be. You got to be careful. There's so much stuff out there because the market is so huge and the amount of money that people spend on cars is so astronomical that, people, I've bought so many inferior crap parts that you get it in the mail and you're like, oh my God, but in the picture, it just looks glorious.
Well, see, what that reminds me of, though, is that people should take advantage. Every one of those parts you bought that turned out to not be any good, you were paying tuition in the school of what are good parts. And they should take advantage of the tuition you spent to get better parts for themselves.
Right. Or to not balk when I tell them how much it is to do their car, because I've put in the time, Matt's put in the time, Joe's put in the time, we've all put in the time to know you don't want that.
Okay, so what would be, if you knew a few places to tell people, hey, these are good places to save money when you're doing a car. Like, this is something that you can get a better result spending less if you do this. What would you suggest to people?
You're not going to save any money, John. You're going to buy good parts. You're not going to, yes, you're going to save money because you don't have to buy it twice. Okay, but, there's AMD. I've never had a problem with Classic Industries. I've never had a problem with AMD. I've never had a problem with Real Deal Steel. It's eBay, that kind of stuff. It's you got to be careful. You can't. Tong Yang is not an American automotive manufacturer. It's not going to fit. It's not going to work. I first learned that doing square body Chevy trucks back in the day. You could buy a door for $69 for a door shell.
Yep.
You put it up to the truck and it would probably fit a bump side Ford better than it would fit a square body Chevy truck. But it was $69. Or you could go to GM and get one for $369, bolt it on, scuff it up, and paint it.
And it would cost less money in trying to finish that other one out.
Yes. That's the thing that a lot of people don't understand is, oh, I saved so much money on this part. Yes, but you spent 18 hours making it fit the car.
Yeah.
We got parts for one of our Mustangs from a major Mustang supplier, okay, and paid decent money for them. We had to shave the back side of the front fenders, re-weld that seam, do all the body work, shave the front of the door, shave the back of the door, and that all cutting into the seam where the skin folds over the shell. We had to grind that because I'm a stickler about body lines. Your body line is going to be the same at the top, all the way down, across the bottom, and up by the front fender. And we had to alter all those parts. And I paid good money for them. So it's still, you have to be a body man. You can't be a parts replacement technician. It doesn't work that way. It does on newer cars. If you buy, I remember working for Ford back in the 90s, they had what they called zero adjust fit. And if your car got bent beyond where it fit, your car was junk. But you would get, for Ford Escort, front fender had perfect round holes. That's where the bolt went. Old cars had a little bit of slop, a little bit of adjustment, and it's just, I don't know, the quality was just much higher then. Go ahead.
What kind of parts? I mean, you've used all kinds of stuff over the years. I mean, what are you finding to be the hardest things to get anymore that you used to be able to get? Because we've all got this part shortage going on. What are you finding that you're having a hard time getting now?
And engine parts, anything that is a mechanical part that I have to get from a mainstream vendor, O'Reilly's, AutoZone, no, O'Reilly's, Advance, Napa, any one of those. Here, move up for a second. I want to show you something. I've got a 53 Chevy Bel Air out there that I bought a fuel sender for. Stainless steel fuel sending unit, except station wagon. Okay.
Oh, you had the video on this one.
Yeah. Close? I don't think so. Let me get up a little bit closer. Do they look? Why don't my arms work right? No, they're not even remotely close. But it's gotten it. The parts issue that's going on right now kind of skipped us for a while. It's starting to hit us now. It's almost like they'll just take something, throw it in a box, and go, "This is close enough." They'll deal with it. I know Tony's done videos on the quality of stuff that's out there right now. Are we in trouble? Yeah, we're in trouble. There's no doubt about it. So this is where people who are more of a craftsman that can actually make something or make it work are really going to come in handy. I got to give it to Tony. Tony's a DIY kind of guy, and wants to keep a slant six dart running with points and this and that and the other thing. Yeah, it's painfully simple. You make it go, but they're really, I don't know. They're really giving us a lot of trouble.
The last time I went in AutoZone, I was looking for a distributor for small block Chrysler, and they had one in the back, and I don't remember what the brand was. Something I never heard of. They took it out of the box. I took one look at it. I said, nope. I have absolutely no confidence that that's going to last a week. It's gotten that bad.
Yeah, I don't. I don't like any. I mean, I remember going to CarQuest when I was a kid in Napa. That was the only game in town. If you went to Napa, it was a hard part. It worked. The dude behind the counter knew what you were talking about.
Yep.
And the first time it was correct. Might have been a couple bucks more than getting it somewhere else, but it was correct. They don't. The people that work counters now are trained more in corporate whatever than they are in, you need to know what this is. You need to know what that is. They don't know. Matt went to the Napa warehouse today and was going to shoot the entire place up because they could not come up with a 9/16 18 inverted flare plug for a master cylinder. and started giving him lip that he didn't know what he was talking about. That's my boy. He knows what he's talking about, you know, and it just, AutoZone is my absolute least favorite. CarQuest, there aren't that many of them around. There are a few, and they changed to, yeah, they got bought out by Advance. My go-to as far as mainstream auto parts dealers is going to be O'Reilly's, and not doing a commercial for them or anything. There's just more of them around.
And they used to be better too.
They used to be better. But AutoZone, unless I need floor mats or Armor All, I'm not going to AutoZone.
The last time I went in an AutoZone, I was looking for some reinforced fuel hose. And I go into the counter, and there's this nice young lady working. And I asked her for some reinforced fuel hose, and you would think that I had three eyes or something, because she just looked at me like I was from space. She had absolutely no idea. So she tries to pull it up on her screen, couldn't make any sense of that. So she said, well, we keep it back here. So told me to come around the counter, and I looked at the boxes of hose coming out, and I said, yep, I need 2 feet of this. So she stretched it out. I cut it. And then she goes up front and literally looks at the screen of what to charge me. And I look at the descriptions, and I said, it's this one. It's reinforced 3/8 or whatever. And then she rang it up. That was the level of competence trying to get fuel hose at AutoZone. That's the last time I was in there. It's that bad.
Call them up and ask them for a water pump gasket to a V6 Toyota Tacoma. They usually get a kick out of that one.
Ask them for a water pump for VWB. It'll probably be about as successful.
I have a 67 Corvair back there. I called them and asked them for a radiator cap, and they were actually looking for it. The manager called me. He goes, will you stop that?
Well, it's fair game. The quality of parts people's gone down just considerably. Like you said, it used to be the old guys who actually knew some things.
They're driving the white pickup trucks now, delivering it to us. They're not the ones picking them.
Yeah, right. It's changed a lot.
Whites at home crocheted toilet paper covers, and they're out driving the delivery trucks. Those used to be the guy behind the counter. I know exactly what you need. Need thumb through that greasy old catalog that he had, the big row of catalogs.
It was a 3 feet wide.
Yeah. And they find it. We can get it for you, or we got it back here, or try this. This works. And there's just none of that anymore. None of it. I mean, I've called parts stores before and asked them for something, and like you said, they look at you like you got 3 eyes.
Yeah.
They have no clue.
Well, if you had to guess, just had a crystal ball here, what do you think it's going to be like in, say, 20 years? If you had to make a guess.
I won't be here, and I'm happy for that.
Well, do you think it'll be like Cuba? Do you think that people are going to have to just either make it or fabricate it or adapt it? Or do you think something will step in and fill the void?
I think if you drive one of these, you'll more than likely be shot on sight or imprisoned. I don't think it's going to go well. The future of this is, you know, one of the reasons why we got Austin down here. Austin's 17 years old. Okay. Austin is going to know what goes into a car, what you got to do to a car, things like that. Your Starbucks barista is not going to be able to keep your car running. You know, I don't think it's a dying art, and I really don't think that there's going to be any saving it over the long game. You know what I mean?
I think you're right.
I'm 57 years old. My generation, and perhaps the one right after me, or a portion of it, might keep this alive, but it's, you know, it's kind of a dying art.
Well, let me ask you this. Do you think it's a smaller percentage of the younger generation, or do you think that even the ones who are interested in car crafting aren't interested in quite the same things?
No, they're interested in Hondas with big wings and fart cans and all that kind of crap on them. Yeah, tune it with a computer. No, I'll tune it with that.
Okay. Well, do you ever get 20, 22, 4-year-olds that are interested in real steel and carburetors? And do you see much of that with what you do?
No.
Okay.
Little Tommy, yeah. Very, very few, John. I mean, it's the easy answer is no. I just don't. If it's not a EG coupe or a 22 RX 04 Acura swapped this, that, or the other thing, no. It just, the noise, the smell, I had a buddy of mine had a Sunbeam Tiger. You could smell every fluid that was in that car every time you drove it. And that's just the way it was. And now they're like, well, the DVD player doesn't work, or, eighth gear's out, or, something like that. It's just not, it's different. We've got a place right across the street from us that just moved in called Only Motorsports, and they build some badass stuff. It's high tech, but it's stupid. 1,400 horsepower Ford trucks on the street, not diesels, gas motors. I'm really, really glad to have them here, because they're taking our craft, which is the older cars that had a little bit of grunt to them, and they're throwing in the newer cars that got a lot of grunt to them. And they like that. We like this. I like, V8 carbureted headers, cams, stuff like that. The sound, it's what I grew up with. That's why I want to keep this alive. What they're doing is great, but it's a different world. It's not necessarily what I would want.
It seems like with the internet age, now that the internet's been here a whole generation now, it's really changed what car people in general are like. What they think is cool. It's like it's a less tangible world now. It's almost more like it's about the status of owning it and not about the visceral experience of driving it, seems like.
Well, let me ask you a question. You probably look for parts on the internet.
Sometimes.
You used to be able to type in intake for a small block Chevrolet.
Yeah.
And it would come up with a list of places or different manufacturers of small block Chevrolet intake manifolds. If you Google that now, you will get whoever pays to get their Google listing higher. It may not be a Chevrolet intake manifold. So that's another thing with eBay. When you get on there, oh God, yeah, there it is. Buy it now. When you get it, it ain't that, because you need to read down further. But the internet, as far as I'm concerned, came and went in this generation, because it used to be spot on. You could find what you're looking for. Now the internet is very much like looking through one of those old catalogs.
Yeah, it used to be about information. Now it's about monetization.
It's about monetization now. That's true.
That's interesting. I mean, I had never thought about it like that, with the paid placement for stuff like that. And the small block Chevy stuff. I mean, we were in a junkyard trying to find parts for a friend's C20 here last year. And I remember when junkyards were littered with square body Chevy trucks.
Yeah.
This entire yard had two in it. Yeah. It had a Blazer and it had a C10. That's all that was in the whole yard. It just blew my mind. I guess I've always taken for granted that something that popular would be around, and it's not. They're starting to really vanish.
Yeah. Well, if it's not a Honda, they crush it.
Are there any parts that you hoard now?
Not necessarily. My big thing is, if I order something and it's wrong, I keep it. I don't send it back. I don't have the time. I just order the right one. Lesson learned. And I'll take that stuff. I'll use it. We've got a Gazelle back there. We're building out of junky shelf parts, and I had a buddy of mine come down here the other day. He did a couple favors for me and asked me if I had a set of headers for something, and I gave them to him. And I'm like, while you're at it, take this and take this and take that and stuff, because I'm not going to speculate on the value of parts in the future. I mean, it used to be like small bolt pattern rally wheels. I'm keeping them, and now you can't give them away, so no, I don't really. I don't.
Frank Parks, did somebody say hoarder?
About the only thing I hoard now is empty vodka bottles.
Frank Parks, by the way.
We got a few.
By the way, Frank, I got your email, and yes, absolutely, I want to come down and see you. It's been on my list for some time, and yes, we're going to make that happen. He's got the ultimate Mopar stash.
That's awesome. I used to know a guy named Brian Swillicka, which is really hard to pronounce and probably even more difficult to spell. But he had a massive warehouse of Mopar parts in Connecticut. I mean, just you take a triaxle trailer to Arizona and strip the taillights out of everything in the salvage yard and bring it back. He had emblems. He had everything. So that's a niche that people can get into is hoarding stuff like that. But we don't have really the time or the space to do that.
Well, I'll tell you what, I want to respect your time. I mean, I'm loving this, and we got all kinds of cool things we can talk about. We got a good crowd in here, got about 45, and having a good time. So you guys have any questions for Jim, make sure to get them in now. But if you wanted to give some, while these guys are thinking their last licks here, if you had any advice to give anybody who wanted to do what you're doing, because there's no real when you're good enough at what you do, there isn't any real competition. So, what advice would you give somebody?
Integrity. You gotta have some integrity. You gotta do it correctly. You have to be fair with people. Am I ever going to get rich doing this? More than likely, no. But I enjoy going to work. Okay, I'm 57. I've only had an actual job 2 or 3 times in my entire life, and every time I do, I'm like, I just can't do it. If I want to go get a cup of coffee, I'm going to go get a cup of coffee. When you work for somebody, you can't do that. But integrity, do people to the best of your ability what you tell them you're going to do. Don't oversell what you can do. If you can't do it, don't do it. Simple as that. Don't blow smoke up anybody's booty hole, because you're not going to get away with it. And just be decent in your craft. Be good at it. Learn. Go to the salvage yard. Get yourself a couple of panels. Smash them up with a hammer and try and make them smooth. Then you can go on to sell that skill to somebody. Learn the tricks. Pay attention. Come here and get a job. We cannot hire people to save our life. Right now, Chick-fil-A is paying $20 an hour.
I forgot to tell you, Justin said he'll come help us if he needs it.
Okay.
Part-time,
but just be a decent person, offer a quality product, and be open with the people that come to get stuff done.
Instead of calling them and say, hey, we found this wrong with your car, invite them to your shop, show them, explain what's going on, and be transparent like we try to be.
Right. And that's something, again, that we started doing with the YouTube channel, is we do that for clarity and transparency more than, I don't want to be whistling diesel actually, yeah, I do. But
just smash some stuff.
Just smash some stuff. I'm tired. But it's so people can tune in and see us working on their car, or the next guy that wants to bring us a car goes, hey, they're not hiding anything here. My door's open. If somebody wants to come down in here and see what we're doing, come on in, have a cup of coffee, come hang out. Barney Fife came and hung out with us.
I saw that. That's
all
great.
day long. He was here all day long. I think Wednesday it was.
A lot of shops you walk in, the first thing you see is
no customers allowed
employees.
per insurance.
Yeah.
I'm here to tell you that's BS, because I've got a Cracker Jack insurance company, and people can come back in my shop anytime they want.
When I was down there, I swung in to see if you were there. I was going to ask you about live then. And Matt was there, and I said, hey, it's good to meet you, but I'm not going to tie you up, because I bet you get shop loafers, and I'm not going to tie you up. So I was there just a few minutes because I did not want to bother you guys while you're working.
No, anybody's welcome to come in and talk to us. And I'm super happy to talk with anybody that knows us from here or, driving by. And I used to call my old shop, I used to call it the museum because I had a bunch of old cars outside and people would come in, hey, I see all these old cars. I take them. This is my Thunderbird and this is my 41 Buick and this is this. And it was like taking a museum tour. And I enjoy showing people that kind of stuff. I enjoy showing people our shop and just what we've done here in 6 months. We've been in this shop 6 months, and I'll tell you what, we've kicked some butt making this into a nice place.
Oh, you got a lot to be proud of. That's a really nice looking shop.
It's killing me. It's killing me.
So Duddy has a good question here. I kind of wondered this myself. Now that Ratty Original Paint is in, what would you tell him?
Some people will put a satin clear over that to save a faded paint job. What I recommend to people do, you can use linseed oil on a rag. It's going to save you a bunch of money. Not trying to drive work away or anything like that. But if you've got a patinaed car, just take some linseed oil on a rag and wipe it over your car. It's going to protect it. And if you think about it this way, it took 50, 60, 70 years for it to get that patina. In our lifetime, that patina is not going to change. So you can drive it just the way it is if you want to, but I'm not a fan of any kind of clear coat over patina because then it makes the patina look fake.
Yeah, it does. It loses something when people do that. It just never looks real.
Even a satin clear, it's just not. You're trying too hard, dude. Just put some linseed oil on it. You'll be fine.
Okay. That's really great to know.
I've seen people at shows with rat rods that are bare steel, and they just put linseed oil on them. And they've been going to shows for years with just linseed oil on the car.
Well, there is nothing worse in my book than fake patina that somebody has airbrushed on. To me, that just kills it for me. To me, that's worse than instant mashed potatoes and clip-on ties. If you have real patina, you got real patina.
I like instant mashed potatoes.
No,
Mopar Dan, let me just interrupt you for a second. Mopar Dan says he wants to stop by and say hello one day. I'm 100% okay with anybody that wants to come down here and see what we're doing. It's an open door, whether it be a customer, whether it be a fan, whether it be somebody else.
Just know you might get caught on camera.
Mopar Dan,
you might be on camera.
He is I've met Mopar Dan in person. He is a wonderful guy.
Cool.
He's a great guy. He can come hang out anytime. I don't know what Unfinished Project says. I don't believe he's quite a character. I don't know.
What doesn't he believe?
You never know with him. Unfinished Project. He's a regular here, and we don't ever know what he's got going on.
Well, I don't believe he's not finished yet.
That's right. That's right. He don't believe in himself. He don't believe in himself.
Bad Tree says I have a zip-up tie. That's Blake. Yep. Mike Collins says, I'm sorry, we have a Mike Cantrell, but this is Mike Collins. I want to show up with a knocking slant 6.
Ken, you know what? That dude came here, and some of you might not be impressed with the fact that we did whatever we had to do. Keep in mind that was Memorial Day weekend, Labor Day weekend,
it was holiday.
whatever. It was a holiday weekend, and we doctored that truck up for free. And he made it 685 miles, 2 miles from where he was going on 5 cylinders. We did everything. We called out every favor. We called Uncle Tony. We called any of the Mopar people I know around here to get pieces for that truck. We could not get them. So we put it to, he was bound and determined to get to Texas and get some barbecue. And
I love it.
He made it.
I love it.
And then Debbie just went out to Gene Winfield's place. She brought her car here just for us to check out. Okay, we found bad wheel bearings, a wiped out spindle, all kinds of stuff wrong with that car. She drove it to Mojave, California, to Gene Winfield's garage, his body shop out there. She's doing a biography on him, and almost all the way back, and she had a problem with the heat riser and the exhaust manifold on her car. which is not something that we would have been able to see anyway. But it just, I don't know, people get adventurous, and for her to take that trip in a 77 Volare, pretty adventurous. I'd have probably rented a Camry.
The world is just better when people live that way. I think everybody should live like they've got at most 5 years left, because then you're prudent with things and you're not reckless, but you keep your best ideas at the tip of the spear. You know, the idea of just one of these days infinitely out in the future causes people to just become so stale and paralyzed and never do anything. If you want to jump in a car of completely unknown condition and drive across the country, well, it's not going to get any better an idea the longer you wait. So I say do it, because I would do something just like that.
Absolutely.
All right, guys. I'm loving the crowd here, and we could chat all evening, but I don't want to tie you guys up. You've been very gracious to come on my live. And do you guys have anything else? Anything you want to plug? Anything you got coming up that you want to tell these guys on the stream here?
Just, you know,
I need a plug.
What's that?
A plug for that master cylinder.
We do. We need a 9/16 by 18 plug, but. No, I mean, thank everybody that subscribes to the channel. The comments, for the most part, are awesome. Tell your friends, keep growing with us. I mean, we're doing some pretty cool stuff down here, and we enjoy the fact that people enjoy the fact that we're doing it. You know, and we'll keep doing it as long as we possibly can. And you know, win, lose, or draw, this is it, dude. This is my job. You know, so that's where we're at, and just the support that we've gotten from people that, you know, whether they're going to have a car done or not, just the people that support us. It's just awesome to have a community like this and to be part of the community. You know, it's a small group of people, but it's a great group.
Yeah,
we're working on a t-shirt stand. I know.
I was thinking your logo looked great on a shirt. You have shirts? You don't have shirts yet?
No, well, I did, and gave most of them away, customers and stuff like that. But we're doing remodeling here in the shop and trying to get our, you know, that word together down here so everything runs smoothly. And then we're gonna do some merchandise. Just not yet.
That'd be great. I mean, I was just thinking about the shirt thing. All right, guys, I don't want to tie you up. I know that everybody's got a weekend to get on with, but thank you so much for being on the show, and we would love to have you back. This, you know, the stream had good energy. We have good questions in here. Didn't have a single troll. Everything was great. So we'd love to have you guys back sometime.
Okay. Anytime, John.
Nice to see you again, buddy.
I wish I could have been here when you came by. It would have been great to meet you.
Yeah, well, I'll be back. I got family that lives in Lebanon. So, you know, whenever I'm down there. Yes, I got family in Lebanon. Tony's down in Murfreesboro. So usually when I come in and see family, I'll go down there for a stream with Tony or something. And you're kind of almost as great.
If sorry to seem a little short with you the first time, but Jim was there. I was the only one here, but yeah, I was a little busy and had something on my mind and trying to get accomplished. I didn't mean to seem short with you or anything, but
no, not at all. No, I'll tell you, it's a great working shop. I mean, I really enjoy getting to see the place. But
it's a real shop. It's not no fake TV drama.
We get people complaining about compressor noise and stuff like that. It's like, you know what? I need to eat. I need to pay my rent. That, you know, it's a working shop. It's not Gas Monkey Garage.
Yeah.
Through that. All right, guys. Y'all have a good evening, and we will see you guys again soon.
Okay.
All right. End broadcast out.